Here's some.
Oh, okay. And you get unlimited ones.
Carrie, how's the
Actually,
GoPro
I
working?
got it earlier today. She told me
Good.
that
Yeah, I
they
made it
did
through. I made it over the hump. Definitely. Yeah, you were a big help. Thank you.
No problem. Glad to help.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 9th, 2024 board meeting at the Isla Vista Community Services District. We will be recording this meeting, and I would like to ask that roll be called.
Director Toffel.
Here.
Dr. Brandt. Here. Dr. Freeman. Here. Dr. Craig.
Here.
Dr. Schultz.
Here.
Super. And I will be standing in for Marcus Aguilar, our board president, who will be here just a few minutes delayed. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Anascoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. And so we'll start off with the consent agenda. Would anyone like to move to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, that was moved by Director Brandt and seconded by Director Schultz. Any comments? All right, and let's call for a vote.
We don't need to do a roll call.
Okay, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
The third time.
Okay, so did you vote yes? Were you in on this? I just wanted to see, so we're approving the consent agenda. Kristen, were you in on that? No. So abstain me. Okay, so it's 5-0-2. 5002. I think I can count to 8-7. I'm sorry, would you say that again, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to discussion and action items.
Public comment.
Pardon me?
Public comment.
Oh, thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment. Henry.
So this is long before last weekend, but Kim and I were sitting in Woodstocks. It was a typical little night thing that we do. And we noticed the intersection right there at Madrid is T intersection across. You got Embarcadero Hall, you got Woodstocks on this side. There's a crosswalk there, which is great. It's fantastic, but there's a problem. The lighting there is so poor. We almost saw somebody get, not just one person, we saw a couple people almost get clipped by cars going up and down the street. It's not that the cars aren't stopping, it's that they don't see, they aren't stopping, but it's not because they don't want to, it's because they don't see the pedestrians in the crosswalk. And, you know, I think that that area needs a little bit better lighting. Another thing that could also possibly help is those illuminated crosswalks that we push a button, things flash and stuff like that. So it's something that Kim asked me to speak about at the meeting next time I make it. Glad to be here, been missing in action, but retirement's fun. But anyway, yeah, I just figured that's a safety concern. We also saw the same thing almost happen at the crosswalk a little farther down by the People's Park. The same thing. Somebody was walking across the street and there was a car coming in. They're very poorly lit. So we've got a lighting issue, or maybe we need those flashing crosswalks. So just giving you guys a heads up on that one. And county did a beautiful job. Well, somewhat beautiful on repairing the bike lanes on that side. You know, now I don't have to hit them, get airborne off them. So they're actually kind of fixed, but I think the bigger issue is definitely the crosswalks. So that might be something to address the county about that. You know?
Well, thank you for that observation.
This is already going to be done in the next couple of years. There's the money to do this, so it's just going through the process, but it's on the project list.
Now you got somebody complaining about it.
That always helps.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll move forward to 4.1 on our agenda, the Ivy Beautiful Annual Report.
All right, well, I'll turn it over to Jenna, who will present to you all the annual report for Ivy Beautiful as part of our budget process. And you get the screen share going.
You got a lot done this year.
I did.
You don't look any
yeah.
worse for wear. You're still smiling and
Oh, I love it.
very nice. Yeah, really, it's very impressive, the
Thank
array
you.
of things that are going on.
Thank you.
Do you
I
wanna
need to
run it?
hear it. I don't believe it. Yes, please. Okay, hi everyone. So let's get started. So first, I wanted to talk about the improvements to Pardal. There were a few this year. One of the latest is the new flyer board that we installed, which I'm really excited about. We are all working together right now to create a permanent display on one of the windows that will talk all about the CSD's programs, and we'll have maps and other resources. So I think that'll be a really great way for residents to have a central area to see what's going on in Isla Vista. So I'm super excited for that to catch on. Next, we got 16 new trash bins on Pardal, which have been really, really good, a lot better than the old ones at containing the trash. I think it looks a lot neater, especially since we power washed the area where the old bins were before we put in the new ones. And eventually we will have art on all of the new trash bins as well. So excited about that. Another thing is, Spencer, you requested, or you brought to my attention the banners on the street poles, on the street lights. So we're actually working currently with a local artist to create some new ones, since the ones that are currently up haven't been switched out in probably 10 years. Next, we installed 36 new native plants in these planters that are near the parking lot on Pardal. So as you can see, the planters used to just have hard, dead dirt. And we were able to, thanks to Richard at the Compost Collective, condition the soil so that it was very soft. We added a bunch of new soil on top All right,
Yeah.
so that's all about this. But yeah, last improvement to Pardal is this planting project. So I hope it'll be the first of many. Next is public art. All the areas you see and many more will have murals on them eventually. Like we got the okay for all of them. So I think that's going to make a huge difference. This year we partnered with IVCRC in order to locate artists and eventually provide them with some supplies. We're also partnering with Project Clean Water. They are part of the Santa Barbara County. And what we will end up doing eventually is installing decals on the sidewalks near beach entrances in order to inspire people and encourage them not to litter, and educate on the impact of litter. We've been partnering with the county, Edison, business owners and property owners for these mural locations.
Jenna, can I ask, what's the IVCRC?
What does it stand
The
for?
ASIV Community Relations Committee.
Ah,
They
got
have
it.
a lot of money to put towards that.
Ah, got it, thank you.
Yeah, so it's been really nice having their help in this process. So very soon there will be murals on all of those areas. So next is graffiti abatement. Thanks to my amazing team, we were able to abate over 788 instances of graffiti, which is huge. I think the difference is very noticeable in the community. So I'm very thankful to my team for all the work that they put in. Next, they picked up over 300 piles of glass in the past year. The reason why we say piles rather than pounds is because we found that they can weigh the glass that they pick up, but most of it ends up being dirt because they're sweeping it. And I don't think it's worth our time to sift out the sand. So that's why we measure it in piles. And this doesn't even count the piles and piles of glass that we picked up in the past couple days after Deltopia. So next is power washing, something I'm really proud of since in the past year, we have addressed over 90 issues through Pacific Coast Power Wash. That's the company that we contract. And I included these photos just so you can see these are things we would not be able to take care of without a power washer. If it weren't for our power washer and for the IVCSD, I don't know how long it would take for these to disappear, but we were able to get them pretty much right away. Also, we were able to power wash Pardal and the Loop on the sidewalk. And in these photos, you could see the stark contrast between the public property that we did power wash and the more private property that we didn't power wash. I think it's very noticeable. I heard many comments of people saying I could tell something was different, but I didn't know exactly what. And I totally agree. It's not like you know right away what is different, but it does make a huge difference. So next is move out, which is huge, but I combined it all into one slide. So one of the things we did, of course, was partner with Earthcomb, and they were able to pick up and organize thousands and thousands of pounds of trash. It was extremely successful in making move out a much smoother process and much less disruptive. Also, our unwanted item pickup, we were able to pick up over 2,000 pounds of unwanted items. Definitely doing that again this year, hopefully ramping it up. For yard sales, we had about 43 yard sales and somewhere around 110 people participate in these yard sales. That was super popular. Everyone loved it, and I had a lot of fun too. As far as education, we really tried to be out there tabling a lot and educating residents about why it's important to to prepare for move out early, and we informed them about the unwanted item pickup and what to do with bulky items at the end of the year. We had our cardboard box distribution where the boxes went in about 10 minutes. So we're going to try to have a lot more this year. We also gave a lot of support to the give sale because, in my opinion, if it weren't for the give sale, there would be a lot more items on the streets and ending up in the landfill. So I think move out was very successful and it's already right around the corner. So jumping right back into that next week. Also, we had the move-in sale for the very first time. UCSB was kind enough to let us use this space that's over on Los Carneros. We stored all of the leftover furniture and some other miscellaneous items from the gift sale in the containers that you could see in the photos. So we stored them over the summer. Then in September, when everybody moved back in, we sold almost all of them, as you could see in the photo, the before and after. I mean, the items that were left were pretty much destined for the landfill. I mean, there wasn't many people who would want the items that were left. So really proud of that because all the items in the before photo were ultimately saved from the landfill. This is the first time we were able to use our new payment system with a company called All Paid. We were able to accept credit card with that system. So we raised $1,944 and we had well over 100 customers. And people were very happy with what they got for the price that they got it. Next, C-Click Fix. So thanks to Fiona, we were able to launch a 3-week-long campaign in order to encourage residents to download C-Click Fix. We had the incentive of a $100 gift card. We also hosted an event that we used C-Click Fix for, where people went around to different areas of Isla Vista and they took photos of road and sidewalk issues. And then Kate, who's in the audience today, organized all of that information on spreadsheets. So next, in terms of litter reduction efforts, we've done a lot. We've had very close communication with county code enforcement. He comes out every Wednesday and Friday, and the days before he comes out, an Isla Vista Beautiful team member will go around and we have a master spreadsheet where we record not only the issues we know that he will want to be aware of, but also just things like overflowing trash cans so that we can all be on the same page as to what's going on. Also, communication with Marburg. This has been really crucial. We're lucky because actually, I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But also, like I said, we've been carefully documenting problem areas. We had a quarterly waste meeting with numerous important stakeholders. We will be having a meeting about policy change soon, and we will be creating and distributing informational material about litter and waste services by partnering with Surfrider. So diving in a little bit more to the quarterly waste meeting, I had this meeting with numerous stakeholders. Most of them came in person. It was a really good turnout. So you could see who attended, kind of what we discussed and some of the outcomes. Most notably, we will be having a meeting this week about ordinance and policy changes. Also, what I was going to mention in the last slide is that representatives from Marburg are starting to give us the service days for each house in Isla Vista so that we can inform residents during the Surfrider partnership campaign of what their actual trash days are. So this was a huge success, and it's something that I want to continue to do to keep everyone in the loop about what the situation here is in IV. And it was very interesting. Even transportation came, and we just learned a lot of things that we didn't know before about the waste issues that occur here. So next, this happened on Sunday. We partnered with Recreation and Parks District to host the Post-Deltopia cleanup. It was very successful. I have many before and after photos, but it was this Sunday, so it was too late to add them. But we helped by providing staff, advertising, signage, snacks, and a gift card to raffle off. So super successful, and it was very fun working with their team. So next, this is something you have probably not seen yet, but I'm working on somewhat of a master plan. This involves art and landscaping. What I've done is I've made an entire spreadsheet of every area in Isla Vista where I think there could possibly be a mural in mostly the public right of way. And then I've input all of those locations onto a map. I've also input all of the current locations of murals on the map as well, so that we can see where the gaps are. Something else I recorded are areas where we could potentially put some types of art installations. Many of those areas are actually currently common areas that get bulky items dumped onto them. So I think art installations would be very beneficial for that reason. On the same note, I added a bunch of locations where I think we could potentially put landscaping in the public right of way, and I've made note of all of the viable options of trees and shrubbery. So something else that I did with the master plan was in a couple areas, I created some very simple mock-ups of the difference that landscaping and art could make in these areas, including adding shade. I tried to mock the effect that shade would have by adding trees in these photos. So next, something else that we've been working on very hard is lighting. I did a few phases to study the lighting in Isla Vista. First, I just went block by block for a few hours at night, and I took photos and notes of just detailing how light or dark it is in different areas of Isla Vista. I then took all that information and organized it in phase 2. I also included all of the wattages and where they might be able to be increased. In phase 3, I was able to get all of the previous survey responses from the community where people said it was dark and combine those with the areas that I found to be dark. In phase 4, I really finalized the areas that are dark and really need more light. So then we hired a professional in phase 5 who did a photometric study. And in this photometric study, you could see very easily where there is and isn't light based on the type of fixtures and their wattages. So next, I just listed most of the organizations and people that we've partnered with in the past year. And here is a breakdown of all our time. Just so you know, we were able to hire a team lead, and that's Kate. She's here right now. So she's been helping me a lot with the operations and has just been so helpful. I think that having somebody that's really focused on the operations is just great. For not only the operations, but for me to be able to focus on things like the master plan, like lighting, like special projects, which I included that to mean the planting, the flyer kiosk, the trash cans, those one-off type projects, because those do take a lot of time. So I'm very thankful for Kate. We've also hired a litter removal position, which we actually got 50 or more people that applied for this position, and all they do is pick up trash and glass. We have a total of 6 team members who do a plethora of things from graffiti abatement to trash and glass pickup, tabling, and garage maintenance. So some of the challenges, litter pickup, as most of you know, the earth comb contract unfortunately fell through. So that was unfortunate. That kind of hindered our ability to keep the streets as litter free as we would have liked to this year. Also, the public art policy took a little bit longer than expected to be finalized, and finding artists who are actually capable of creating murals. So even if they're good artists, that's one thing, but like if they're actually able to take their art and create it on a bigger scale, that's a little bit hard to find. And despite having a campaign to popularize C-Click Fix, it hasn't caught on as much as I would like to see it catch on. So next, let's talk about some goals and how we can improve the program. First off, greater litter reduction and prevention. We are in the middle right now of formulating a consistent educational campaign in order to educate people just about the basic services available to them, because a lot of people don't know their service days. They don't even know about the bulky item pickup that happens every Wednesday. So just educating everyone year to year consistently will go a long way. We will most likely be bringing litter pickup operations in-house as opposed to contracting somebody year-round. This doesn't necessarily include move-outs. We would also like to eventually expand our unwanted item pickup so that we can accept larger items year-round, because right now we're limited on space. We're only using our electric bikes, and we're not able to accept larger pieces of furniture. So next, and this is something that we found is really important according to the mobility plan, people say that there is a lack of wayfinding in Isla Vista. So that's definitely something we would love to incorporate, as well as just general signage, relaying information about our programs. Now, this could be an opportunity to post signage about C-Click Fix itself, and that kind of thing. Next, expanding the public art program. This is definitely something we are in the middle of doing, but I would really like to partner with the UCSB art program. I know this is something that has happened in the past where they were able to partner with landlords and put several murals throughout town. So I think this would be a great way for us to source artists. And also bringing about more awareness to property owners with the help of our CE team would be great. I think that once they hear about the program and the benefits of having art on their property, they could be very interested. Next, landscaping. I think this is huge. I really think if we're going to further the beautification of Isla Vista, of course, art is important, but landscaping makes a huge impact. I think that if we're able to add just 2 or 3 trees and native shrubbery to different parkways in Isla Vista per year, it could make a huge difference. When we look at Isla Vista, there's a stark contrast between the areas that do and do not have trees. And that doesn't mean that the areas that don't have trees don't have space for trees. Hence the master plan where I've labeled many areas, especially Del Playa, Sabado on the 6-6 and 6-5 block. So the reason this is important is because if you look up a beautiful neighborhood and then you look up the exact opposite, what you're going to see is the difference in greenery. And I believe and know from studies that greenery contributes to the well-being of residents as well as provide shade. And yeah, it's just really important. I think it will add a lot to our community. Like I said, just starting with a couple per year, I think will make a huge impact. Lastly, becoming more visible in the community. One thing we can do is increase our CE budget just a little bit. I think that the Isla Vista Beautiful program itself and our regular operations is one thing, and then move in and move out is a whole nother thing that costs a lot of money CE wise. I would also really support additional support for the CE team itself, because I do think that we could use a little bit more branding for the program in order to support our educational efforts. So next, I just go through some of the board goals and the progress that we've made. I mostly went over this information throughout the report, so I'll kind of just brush through all this. But it's there if you'd like to look at it a little bit closer. And that's it for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was especially nice to see how many partners we have working with us.
Yeah, it's a lot, and sometimes daily. It's never, or it's usually not a one-off thing. Usually I'm working with several different partners every day.
And that's a lot of effort too.
Yeah.
So comments from the board, and I'll turn over the gavel to Marcus.
Thank you. Apologies everyone for my tardiness. Thank you to Director Toplet for carrying us so far. I had a question I wanted to start with. So we've continued to have a small challenge with getting users or user buy-in with SeeClickFix. And I feel like this is a base question maybe I've asked before, but I don't remember. Is SeeClickFix only available to your mobile device, or is there a web like ticket system as well?
There's a website.
Do we see users ever go and make the ticket from their laptop or just from like a more traditional? Or do we have a way of seeing a difference?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, and I can find out. I would think that it would be less likely just because they'd have to see something, take a photo, remember when they get home to send it in. But that's an interesting idea.
And so part of the mandatoriness is to take a photo of the issue that you see.
Yeah, you don't have.
You don't have to.
You don't have to, but it's very unhelpful a lot of the time when
Yeah.
there isn't a photo.
And so like an example of an unhelpful ticket would be somebody says like, there's a pile of trash on Sabado. And you're like, well, there's a lot of Sabado, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Are we getting like mostly helpful uses of the app or mostly things that become challenging?
I would say that they're mostly helpful when reports do come in. There'll be build ups of like bulky items, that type of thing.
And so it seems like then like the users of the application are kind of, they notice a problem maybe day one, then it lingers for them, and then they might say something about it a week later, kind of a thing. Or do we have any idea based on the sentiment?
That's a good question. I think that there are few users, and when those few users see something, they report it right away rather than them seeing it and it sitting there. I think it's either they do use it right when they see something or they don't.
Got it. Thank you. Those are my questions for now. Any other directors have questions?
I just wanted to follow up on that. How many times was SeeClickFix used? How many instances?
That's a good question. I don't have the exact number, but it's very few.
Like
Even
less
when
than
we,
50?
yeah, that's a
For the
good
whole year?
estimate.
Okay.
Yes. Consistently, I check every day, but we rarely have random entries. When we were doing the campaign, I want to say 19 people actually submitted something during the campaign, in which we had $100 gift card raffle to everyone who downloaded it and or submitted something.
And what's the cost of the program? The software, is it like a one-time thing?
It's
Is it
an
ongoing?
annual cost subscription. It's 10,000 a year.
That's
1,000 a year.
It's gone up
Wow.
in price recently. It used to be like 6,000.
Well.
Director Brandt.
And do we do we manage our, like, all the cases in C-Click or do you manage all the different, like, work requests?
I look at them and then I will acknowledge whatever's going on and delegate it to a team member, or say it's something for code enforcement or public works, then I'll send the issue to them. Does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
so are you using the software as like a CRM?
No, or
no?
to send it to my team, you mean?
Like, is it providing value other than the public input
Oh,
side?
like data?
Like, are we using it for our own stuff?
Are we tracking things? through
Not
it?
currently, because
Okay.
it's been so little that it's easier for me to just tell my team what to do. And we personally document everything that we do. So I think it would be more work at this point, just because there are so few users.
And to confirm, it's been about stagnant, the amount of people we've had using it.
Yeah.
For 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and my opinion on that is that I think that something like C-Click is important, just because people can report something and then they can see that their issue actually got addressed. Also, people have it in their head that there is somebody out there who can fix an issue if they see it. So all that sentiment is really important. I also think that providing my email for them to contact me that way could be helpful too, if C-Click doesn't catch on. But we have tried. I think maybe it is just too out of the way for some people.
Dr. Craig.
On that note, like, I think even a Google form for people to submit things to would be really helpful, like, just in the link tree, like, we don't want to keep paying for C-Click based on how much it's used, like, something like that. I do think, like, as you're saying, the people who want to use it are, and I think they would be willing to take the extra step of, like, going in the Instagram bio and submitting something through. It's just as simple as.
I like that idea.
District.
I should have known, because I'm certain it came up at multiple previous meetings how much we were paying for it, but I didn't know. That's a lot for something that's not really being used very much. Where we are going out of our way to advertise the platform. As a term that's been going around recently, techno-neo-feudalism, the idea that we are paying people in order to be built into their system, like to be serfs tending the land of the of the app that these people have made. And I think one of the premises, because I'd known about this app for many years actually before the IVCSD existed. It was, when we were at the AV3 meetings, there was, like, I remember printouts, because Britta had been arguing with EVPLA at the time on C-Click about a tree that had been removed on the IV theater lot. And I think the idea was always that this would be something that everyone would know about, and therefore the fact that people knew about C-Click would then cause there to be an organic demand towards agencies to be kind of involved in the system. But to the extent to which we're like fighting to try to get people to know of its existence, it does seem, I mean, as noted, like maybe a Google form or an email address, or you could actually imagine, honestly, as like a user of these things myself, if there was a phone number that I could text message,
Yeah.
I would love that so much more than C-Click. Just like you have an issue with your city, text a photo to this phone number. I would love that. And so
Yeah.
that'd be way cheaper than whatever was C-Click.
Director Schultz.
You could even get like a little QR code sticker and put them on like the phone poles or something that's really easily scannable and can go to the link tree right there. Could be like a phone number and an email and a Google form, and you have options.
Yeah, I like that idea. And yeah, maybe the county would be open to signage that's actually permanent and has that information on it.
Yes, Director Brand.
Well, switching gears a little bit, I feel like the theme for this year is definitely growth. We are doing a bunch of stuff that we haven't done before. The trash cans, the power washing, the move-in sale. I just think you've been able to take on a whole lot and really expand this program in a really important way. So thank you for all of your work, making all of these excellent things happen. And I think that what the first question that comes to mind is, can you the litter seems very central to this and to our success and our failure, the whole program. Where are we at with the Earthcomb contract? What's the status, and do you have future plans on where that
Yeah,
will
So, yeah, thank
So
you.
they're finishing out, they were able to get insurance recently and are just started again a few days ago. But their contract runs to the end of May. And after that, we're gonna evaluate what we can do, and like Jenna said, maybe move things in-house to just have litter pickup workers work for us.
Gotcha. That's good to know, and it would be good, I think, just as part of the budget to see like you had that great slide a couple slides back of here's the different types of positions under the program
Oh, yeah.
and how many we have, and like the FTE equivalent. It'd be good to convert what we're getting out of Earthquome into something like that. Sounds like you guys are gonna have that conversation internally.
Yeah, and I think with the 6 team members that we have, we can delegate some of them, and like one of them's graduating, for example, and I would feel totally comfortable replacing that person with a litter pickup person. So I think we will have no problem. It was just kind of the question of like, is Earthcomb gonna start or not? And so that's why we weren't able to establish something internally.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense. Glad to hear this plan. And the other question I had was on graffiti abatement. We're, I think, breaking records in terms of how much we're doing. A lot of the photos that you had on there were trash facilities, receptacles. Are we in partnership with Marburg on that? Are they
Yes.
contributing to the program?
Well, they provide paint that matches the color of the dumpsters so that we can cover it up if we're unable to remove it. But they have been very receptive. Like I said, they've been providing us with the service days of a bunch of the houses so that we can educate the residents. They've also been very involved in like the quarterly waste meeting, and they'll be involved in the meeting when we're talking about ordinances. And so they've been very helpful and receptive, especially I know that during move out last year, they already told us that during this move out, they're willing to really work with us in order to allow the company that's going to be picking up trash to coordinate with the drivers so that they can just throw the trash directly into the truck.
Awesome. That's great. I think it might be a good idea for us to consider asking for a donation. That's a great service that we're providing for them. And I'm glad we're able to do it because it benefits our community, but it benefits them too. So just an idea that I'll throw out. And yeah, so that's my question.
Thank you.
Dr. Freeman. I forgot actually, what was the original reason why we ended up going with a company like Earthcomb as opposed to just having people? pick up
I
trash and
was
stuff?
introduced to them by Heal the Ocean, which is a really notorious nonprofit in town. And they had done a lot of amazing work. Also, Andrew is a former houseless person who hires houseless people. So we thought that would be a great cause, especially given what the I Live Vista Beautiful program was kind of founded on.
Okay, thank you. Now I remember it's got their wheels, yeah.
And also, in addition, I think that having designated trash picker for people who have experience is very important for move out time because it's a pretty big job.
Given that follow-up, when you're saying then bring it in-house, is that then something where you bring it in-house and have those people be designated trash pickup mover people, or?
We would still have move out as a separate contract to deal with because our employees usually are busy during move
Okay,
out.
that's a very good point.
But
So
for the
are
rest
there
of the
any
year,
other
we
companies
hire-
in the area that do
There
anything
are.
similar?
Yeah,
Okay,
we
great.
found
The contract and the consent.
Yeah,
Oh,
we found
okay.
a
It wasn't the
replacement.
consent
It's
decree.
all good.
Great.
And they're great. They're
Okay.
very local. I'm excited.
Amazing.
To Galena.
I should have assumed we've already solved it.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I should have said that.
Is there any
Sorry.
problem we haven't already solved?
Yes, Director Dash.
I just wanted to commend you and your staff. Your presentation was excellent. And what's so excellent about it is all the amazing work you've been doing over this past year. And I'm just struck because I feel like Isla Vista Beautiful, at its essence, it's making this community a beautiful place. And through public art and thinking about landscaping and cleaning up litter, I mean, it's just amazing. And so I just want to just commend you because I think the work you're doing is so important. And I'm just, I'm super impressed. And
Thank you.
but I wanted also to say when I first heard, when I was looking at the presentation earlier, I'm like, master plan. Are we referring to the master plan? And now I understand it's your master plan.
Master
I'm
plan is
like,
a
why are we
very
promoting the
loose
county?
term.
What's that?
It's a very loose term.
Yeah, master plan,
When
when I
it comes to
capitalize.
that.
So I thought that was amazing. I just thought how you approached the project of the lighting kind of in 5 different steps and systematically looking at it. I thought that was, it's so great. And I just wonder, some of these projects, they do involve partners like the county. Some of these partners have financial responsibility over some of the projects that you're working on. And so I'm not going to ask you for specifics, but I just hope that we're leveraging the good work that you're doing with entities that have a funding responsibility for this in the community to help with some of this.
Yeah, we are, like, the work Jenna did on the lighting was to help spend the 250,000 that the
Awesome.
county
Oh, good.
allocated for lighting. So we make sure that
Yay.
our priorities are.
Awesome. And then the last thing, I'm absolutely dumbfounded that people, and if you're saying this, that people in Isla Vista don't know when Marburg comes to pick up their trash.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, that is something, I have a little magnet on my refrigerator and I know when the recycling comes, when the trash comes, and it's inconceivable to me that that same service is not offered.
We're gonna have that.
But you have to
Yeah.
rely on landlords to do that.
Yeah.
They
I
don't give
guess
us.
Yeah,
so.
most people don't have.
I mean, so it's like, no wonder there's trash in the street. No one knows when trash is gonna be
Yeah.
picked up.
Yeah, and the thing is that Marburg is here every day, so it is confusing. It's not like you live in a neighborhood and they only
Yeah,
drive down
right.
your street once a week. So in partnership with Earthcomb, we will, I mean, oh my gosh, Surfrider,
Yeah.
we will be passing out, we'll be doing a big thing. They're gonna
Yeah.
help us go door to door, and this is something I want to happen every single year, given that our population's so transient. But you could see in the bottom right corner, this is kind of the little card that we've made. And it's going to be on nicer paper. We're going to put a magnet on the back of it and really create an incentive for people to put it on their fridge. We'll write in the specific trash days of each house, and it has all the info on bulky item pickup, hazardous waste, where to donate your items, our unwanted item pickup, how to maintain your outdoor bins, and also what came about of our quarterly waste meeting, which was really great, is that Jen Burcham was there, and she does UCSB housing, has relationships with the landlord. So we're gonna talk to her about communicating to the landlords that this is something that should stay on the fridge year after year and not be taken down as students move out.
That's great. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Right, I don't see any continuing board questions right now, so I'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment on this update we received? Yes.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Jenna and Kate as well for a wonderful job they've been doing. I've actually been somewhat involved on a sort of civilian basis. And it's a work in progress. It's always going to be a work in progress. I love this is, like I always keep saying, it's a very dynamic community. So, you know, this is something that's going to need to keep going. It is the closest thing to public works that we have. I've always kept pushing for a public works type of thing, and this is the closest to it that we have. So I really appreciate it. You know, the thing with Earthcomb, if you want, I can talk to Andrew, he's a personal friend of mine, and find out, but unless you got somebody else.
We are taking.
Got it, okay. And then the thing about, you know, Director Dressler, you bring up about people don't know when the garbage pickup is. I'll go one further. People don't know how the garbage gets picked up. I am not kidding. At our building, you have to go through the building. It's an upside down U. That chalet on Segovia, and you have to go through the building. And the way Marboard does it is they park their truck out front. Dude comes in, grabs the dumpster or the recycle bins, takes them out, dumps them, replaces them with a new one. We had a neighbor that thought that the garbage truck was miniaturized to fit through the driveway and then resized and then dumped it. Some people just don't know. They don't know the processes involved. But in all, Isla Vista Beautiful's been doing a great program. Jenna, when you do another light study or something like that, please, you got an engineer at your disposal. Last thing is see, click, fix. That's a lot of money for that. That's not really being utilized. The way that I report things to Jenna is I have this thing called a GoPro that Carrie knows I carry with me everywhere I go. And what I do is I'll take a picture and I'll go home on my computer, I'll download it and I'll email it. And that's my see, click, fix, which is free. You know, internet ISP providers are generally free. And I think it's a good idea to move away from that app. I don't see it. I've always said it. We've had discussions about this time on end, and I've never had too much faith in that app. Even though I do have it on my computer, but I never use it. I'd rather just reach out to the source themselves and say, hey, here's what we got a problem. In our neighborhood, we've had some issues that I've reported to you. And if I don't handle it, I'll report it to you, so. But I'm looking forward to more cooperation with Ivy Beautiful and, whatever you need from me, Jenna, you got it. And just keep up the great work. I think, like I said, Isla Vista needs something similar, or not similar, but something of a public works department. Ivy Beautiful is definitely fitting that bill there. So great program. Great program.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. You guys are the ones doing the work.
Thank you for those comments. Is there any other public comment at this time? All right. If anyone on Zoom will comment, just jump in and interrupt. But I'll go back to board comment at this time. So I'll start with a few comments. First of all, I'm very proud of this program. This presentation is very clear, very useful for anyone, any civilian, anyone to catch up on what we've been doing. Great photography in here too. I love Sands Beach. It's my favorite place on the planet. So thank you for putting that in there. I'm really proud of all the new waste receptacles we have. I'm really proud as soon as I saw them that we had logos on them. That was something I immediately told Jonathan about and was really happy about. Seeing these slides of the new planters coming in, again, this is a very holistic program. It's one that's so easy to brag about for hours and hours on end. When it comes to my questions earlier about C-Click Fix, something that I don't think I'm blaming any of our employees or the program for anything. We use a program kind of similar at UCSB that is a paid service for library questions, things like that, the whole ticketing thing. And it comes with a lot of other software that you need for libraries. But that total cost is about $2,500 a year. And it has tons of data management potential. I don't think it would apply here, but I'd say that just as a comparison that we should more seriously explore other options, even just low-tech free ones. That's my first suggestion when it comes to this program, because 10,000, even if that's been a recent change, is something that if I was on finance committee, I would definitely flag pretty seriously. And I saw that in our agenda, it's sentenced with give direction to staff and or finance committee. So I'd like to look into that more. I'd like those folks to look into that more. I do think that having a electronic system, whether it be a telephone, whether it be some kind of Google phone number that isn't anyone's personal number, but goes to an email or something, would be very useful for the public. I think the idea of using a QR code that's consistent in our community would be very helpful. That's something I push for at UCSB in the library constantly. We haven't necessarily gotten up to speed yet. I think our program can here. And then I'm really happy about this master plan. I had no idea that this was coming. Seeing this map with all these different points of emphasis for art installations, I was really impressed to hear your idea of taking a problem dumping area and flipping it and turning it into a beautification opportunity with an art installation. That's genius. I'm blown away by that. So yeah, those are my comments for now. Thank you. You've done a great job. Anyone else like to jump in and start praising? Go for it.
Thank you.
Director Brady.
Well, I'll just say ditto on the praise I already gave, because I think that there's just so many good things happening in this program right now. You continue to take on more. And I think I'm also really excited about the landscaping plan, and would be very curious about how it fits in with the data that you've collected on sidewalk needs. I think that seeing the areas that you had even kind of already been looking at, there could be a great opportunity for more partnerships on urban trails with, I know one group that comes to mind is the Santa Barbara Bucket Brigade that does landscaping and trails, mainly in communities that have resisted sidewalks because they don't like sidewalks. But I think our purpose, if we could partner with them, would be different. It would be because we want there to be a good walking path. We know that there are lots of these kind of areas that you've identified already that are like, they're kind of trails of necessity. They just naturally happen to be there, even though it's not a real sidewalk. And it could be really cool to try it and create more of those and landscape them. So I think that would be really cool. It's definitely cheaper than building a sidewalk. You know, maybe there are instances too where we should consider that, because in many ways Henry's right. Like, this is kind of the program is like the closest thing that we have here at IVCSD to public works. And even though we're not responsible for all these things, it's great for us to think about how we can chip in. So I'd encourage us to think about that, you know, when it comes to future projects that are, you know, when you have capacity.
I've heard of Bucket Brigade. I'll look into them more. I wasn't sure exactly what they did, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
I have a question again. So I'm also excited about the lighting program that we have kind of ongoing. Are we gonna have for like a future meeting agenda topic about like specific plans, or is the order already put into the county for like they're gonna put in a pole here, update a pole here?
We haven't submitted it yet, Jenna, right?
No.
So I emailed the board the thoughts we have. And I think the county's main thoughts are Picasso already, but we want to maybe see where we both land. They couldn't do all of Picasso, so, and that might cost $250,000 a month. To fix Picasso. So we can bring it to the board next meeting if you want to have a public discussion on it.
I'm interested in discussing it with everyone here, but I don't know if everyone else is interested in discussing that, so we can get further temperature from folks. But yeah, something I'm interested in. I have a few neighbors that share comments with me about this specific topic. So yeah, but I'm glad that this phase has there's so many phased out reports. I'm impressed by that as well. It's a huge amount of work you've done in just 1 year. So thank you.
Thank you. It's important to put lighting in the right spots.
All right. Let's see further comments from the board. So thank you. We can move on to our next agenda item.
Sorry, I've got one more follow-up question.
Okay. Oh, please.
So your ask, if you could have more resources, obviously resources are scarce, we're all dealing with it, but your ask would be for a community engagement position. Is that what it is?
Yeah, or I mean, I'm just supporting the proposal of an additional community engagement employee. I think that would be really helpful. I feel that my program, we haven't really narrowed in on its brand exactly. And I just think that's super important for a program like this, because just having that sentiment that someone is out there beautifying the community, someone's out there that cares, I think that alone moves people to do better. So there are a lot of different things I'd like to do to perfect that. And I know we're swamped right now. So doing an amazing, amazing job, but I do support the addition of an employee in that sector.
Awesome. Well, good to know, and we'll definitely be talking about it in finance committee and looking forward to more details.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So for item 2, we didn't complete that for the meeting today, so I'm asking to pull it for now.
Okay, I thought there was a couple of specific questions you wanted us to go over, or
You could send me those thoughts over email, and then I'll bring you a final draft
got it.
next meeting.
Perfect. All right, so on to item 4.3. Our
Oh, yeah, you're not.
reserves report and discussion for 2024-25.
Okay, this is the first time that we've had a reserve one like we had the revenue one last time. Here's just a quick explainer. We have 3 different kinds of reserves: assigned, committed, and uncommitted. Assigned reserves are the UCSD contributions that have come into our income statement and then not been spent by the end of the fiscal year. It's not very big, but there is a substantial one for the mediation program for like $19,000. That's from when we first got the money for that program in 2018. So it has had a pretty slow spend rate. There's a small amount for the safety stations just from last year. We didn't spend that much, but our hope is for this to always be zero, but sometimes there's money in it. For example, the year there was COVID, the interpersonal violence investigator, we had realized the money in our income statement. The program didn't operate the last quarter, so we put in the remaining quarter of the funding into our assigned reserve, and then when the program came back, we spent it. But our goal is first in, first out. So we use this money to fund our programs that we're asking VCSD to fund first, and then the remaining amount from the New Year's commitment. Obviously, that's now the old way, because that commitment is being renegotiated now. But for the last 7 years, that's how we did it. Committed reserve. This is mandated by policy. I failed to link the policy, but it's a board policy that we have on what our reserves should be. But you can see that the percentages are laid out here of, or the percentages are not laid out, but the allocations are laid out here. So we have a short-term strategic reserve, which is 3 months of operating, our long-term strategic reserve, which is 6 months of revenue, utility user tax. We have the capital maintenance structures and equipment reserve, self-insurance, and cumulative capital outlay. So these are set by policy. We set that policy back in 2018, and we haven't changed it since then. But the numbers automatically change on their own because they're functions of revenue or expenditures. We've fully funded our committed reserve. It's been fully funded almost the entire time we've had the policy. It's very large. It's $1.8 million. Or sorry, not 1.8, it's $1.5 million right now. But we can spend these funds as we want, so we don't always have to have the money in there. If there was a capital project we wanted to do, we have a capital outlay of $300,000 or $400,000 that we could expend into a project we want. And I put a note here that since our revenue is not changing that much from this year to next year, our reserve requirements probably won't change that much either. The last one is the undesignated reserves. That one has been historically a little bigger. It's now on the downward trend since we're using it for things. But it was $640,000 at the end of last fiscal year, projected to be $340,000 at the end of this year. But that projection is gonna be wrong by 88,000 because we're not gonna spend that 88,000 on the planning report, which is usually just a hopeful thinking that we want to get to that point. Maybe next year, since the parking study is finished, we can move on to that project. So we probably will end up at 429,000, but that's not a final number yet either. We'll know, we're almost to the end of the fiscal year, so that picture will become more clear pretty soon. But we know that we'll have, at least $340,000 in our undesignated reserve that has no, this is money that we have in our bank account that has no specific assigned purpose to it. All in all, we have at the end of last year, $2.195 million in our reserves, and this year we're projected to end with 1.8 million, which is more than 1 year of tax revenue. That's it.
Right, thank you for that update. Thank you for this. John, are there any questions from board members?
I just have to say, I really hate these discussions, but mostly because I can hardly see. And I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm trying to make it bigger on my computer, but my computer's small. And so I'm just super confused about what's happening, but regardless, if we can try and get stuff earlier so we can review it, it would be helpful because I wasn't able to review this. So I'm even more lost. But that's okay. Don't stop for me. Don't stop for me, unless we're making decisions.
No decisions, it's just
Okay.
an update of what is in our reserve.
So I'll just like ask somebody who understands this kind of stuff better than me.
Call me anytime.
Who's on finance? Okay, I'll call Carrie. 'Cause she's
No, you
nice.
can't call Carrie. 'Cause it's a-
Oh. Okay,
That's
so
why we're having the discussion.
Oh, okay, well, I just need someone, I'll call you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Probably for something else, though.
Director Brand.
My question is, with some of the big projects that we have going right now, do we have foreseeable one-time expenses associated with them where we should start to program the undesignated fund balance for those, like things related to implementation of parking is one that I'm thinking?
Yes, the parking is the only one really, that will need a startup cost, most likely. So I would say that's the main thing to look at that reserve for. The mobility plan, not really. That we would be getting funding from grants and other agencies to spend that money. So I don't think we need to do it for that. So just the parking.
In with the study that's being done right now, they're still doing the analysis of the data. Is there also going to be a recommendation for how much should be programmed towards those one-time costs?
I don't know from our consultants if we'll get that specific, but
Okay.
we can ask. But I don't think so. I don't think it'll be exact. It'll just be, there should be a program that does X, and we know that that might cost $200,000 to $500,000, on the ranges. We might need to do a separate contract for parking implementation, which is something that raised to me. That's something we're interested in, is having an implementation contract. But this is just for the study.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I think it'll be good for us as finance to start thinking about putting that money away sooner rather than later.
It is one time, it's going to run out.
Let's see further questions from any board members this time. I'll go to the public comment on this report discussion. Seeing none, so I'll come back to the board. Is there any further board comment, further board discussion on this report? Director Top.
Well, maybe I'll just say, for Director Deschler's benefit, that reserves are a good thing.
Oh,
So-
okay, I'm not a complete moron. I just couldn't follow the discussion and where my eyes were on the screen. That's why I was struggling.
Well, I think you're very intelligent, very
Just talking about
intelligent.
budget stuff.
But they just
Yeah.
have certain designated purposes that you have to keep in mind. And, usually you get them because you're working with an annual budget and everything doesn't just fall into place within a 12-month period. So you often have things that take longer to resolve. And, certainly we've seen our share of delays, which is part of what's caused that for us. And as we have been looking at the budget on the budget committee, we have felt a lot of confidence that we do have that amount of cushion to manage the projects that we're already committed to, and then also go out on a limb perhaps if new things come up that we feel a need to get committed to.
Well, yeah, thank you, Director Topliff. That was helpful for
Consulting.
me as well.
It was really helpful to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, sweetie.
I need the 5th grade version. I got
appreciate
it.
Yeah, is there more specific direction that you want us to share this time?
I think that's good, just we need to focus on the parking study.
Yeah,
with the
no, that was good
reserves.
to hear.
That's pretty much.
All right.
Okay, I think I have
Yeah.
a comment. So let me ask you this. So we have this extra money. We're trying to think about how we would spend it. We brought up the parking study and perhaps parking implementation later on. What about some of the asks that are coming from our staff? In terms of, I saw some things in Jenna's presentation that perhaps more staff in her area. So are those some of the things that we can consider for these reserve funds?
Technically, yes. So
Uh-huh.
last year, we did significant reserve spending or this fiscal year, for like the compost collective, for the community garden. So we do spend our reserves to get things going. If we want to go beyond our annual budget, you would use your reserves to do that. Or if you had a revenue issue where your revenue is lower than what you wanted it to be, but you still want to provide services, you can dip into reserves. I mean, you got to do that judiciously, because if you're putting too much reserve money on ongoing costs, you're gonna go broke eventually. So, but if you don't want to just cut it, let's say we had a massive budget issue and you don't want to just cut services and, go bare bones, we could figure out a plan where, okay, we're gonna use a little bit of reserves and a little bit of cuts instead of a lot of cuts or a lot of reserve spending. So it's a tool to help, even out the budget over years as well.
All right. Thank you all for that discussion. And we can move on to our next agenda item, 4.4, the IV Safe Agenda Preview for the Spring 2024 meeting.
We already have another IV Safe meeting. It feels like we were just at the last one. But it is April 17th, and we pre-planned them for the year, and this one was obviously pre-planned around being a debrief for what happens at Deltopia. So the agenda items at IV Safe that are coming up, obviously Deltopia is the first one. The next item will be, it was requested by our board and members of the IV Safe group, which was to discuss road, sidewalk, and mobility safety. So we would present, I was planning to present to them the general top line, takeaways from our parking and mobility plan, and see if there's any discussion on that, and feedback for the recommendations and takeaways. Our board at a few meetings ago asked that IV Safe consider or have a discussion on a peer-to-peer program to address neighborhood noise concerns. So it's obviously a long-term project, but we'd get the discussion started at IV Safe to see if there's any interest, any initial thoughts on something like that. Our board also asked at that same meeting, it was the one we had at the community center, that we have a session with IV Safe on bluff and balcony safety, and one of the landlords, Aaron Murphy Doherty, that participates, also asked to have a discussion on this. So we'll have a presentation. I'm still working on the outline of the presentation, so it doesn't have a desired outcome like the other ones do. So I'm still working on that with the relevant stakeholders, but we would present to Ivy Safe what's been done already on bluff and balcony safety and what possible opportunities there could still be to do with the different people involved at Ivy Safe. And then we'll just do a quick update on fentanyl overdose prevention. And for example, we are going to be the recipients of 3,500 fentanyl test strips pretty soon, IVCSD, and our vending machine is TBD, and we just did our Narcan distribution. So this has been an ongoing issue at Ivy Safe. Lots of different people are interested in this, especially our county supervisor and sheriff always have new things to bring up on that. So, and then that exhausts our list of future agenda items too. So if our board has any additional ideas for, I mean, some of these will probably continue and won't be the last time they're on the agenda, but if you guys had ideas for 3 of these at our last board meeting. So if you have additional ideas, we could put them on this list. Next time Ivy Safe will meet after this is August at a to be determined date, and then October 14th for Halloween.
Dr. Dashler.
I guess I'm surprised there's something on about bluff safety. Feels like we just had a whole discussion from the county on bluff safety, but that was one of
No,
our
our board.
meetings? And so that's why they want to bring it, somebody wants to bring it back to this group?
I think it was our board that asked to take it to Ivy Safe next at that same meeting. So at the February meeting, we had the bluff safety, and then we had like the same agenda item like this for the February Ivy Safe meeting. And it was brought up then that maybe Ivy Safe should have some more discussion on that. So that's why I added
I
it.
just wonder what we hope to achieve by that, because it seems like we've had very robust conversation already, and I don't know, it just seems funny that would be an IVCS. Okay, I don't know, whatever. I just seems like we've discussed this a lot lately.
I guess I have a question. So this was on Ivy Bluffs and Balcony Safety was also in the winter Ivy Safe meeting.
No, it
Was
was brought up as a potential agenda item too late. So
Got
makes
it.
sense. Yeah.
we're doing it, yeah. So Ivy Safe hasn't discussed this issue since maybe like December 2022.
Yeah.
And so in case, I think the thought then was we have some landlords who participate in Ivy Safe, and we have other, we have all the different players involved. And so maybe there's, we've done a lot and we've come really far, but maybe there's other steps that could be taken and discussions. But I reviewed the last board meeting, or that board meeting that came up, and it was a request that came up then.
Yeah, I understand that the circumstances, though, will be a different conversation than the one we had with the public in February. Director Bray?
I think Jonathan actually made my point. The conversation that needs to be had is with the landlords and what they're doing and not doing, and that conversation.
It's not, but if we just have one landlord there, we're not gonna achieve that goal, right? That's,
We have
maybe
6.
we'll have 2,
Yeah, no, we have like the 6 main property managers on our invite list,
yeah.
and I do ask them to come, but yeah, you can never force people to show up.
Yeah.
I think it's
But-
strategic that you listed one of them as being a requester, so hopefully
She
that
did request-
encourages them to participate.
She did request it also like a day before the last meeting, so it was, or not a day, but too soon for us to make it an agenda item. So.
Director Dashler?
I would like to add to Ivy Safe for an agenda at a later point is, I think that it's really important to think about how the agencies in Ivy can coordinate when it comes to emergency notification. It's an issue that comes up every time UCSB sends out an emergency notification in accordance with our Clery law responsibilities. And it always points out a gap of how people get information in Ivy List House. Some people do and some people don't. And I was struck by that again when I read and then called you about a bluff or a balcony collapse a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and it was an ed hat.
That's how I found out.
Yeah, and that's
That's how I
what
found
you
out
told
too.
me that's how you found out. And so I like the idea of discussing this with the focus of maybe bringing a smaller group of stakeholders together who have direct responsibility for information, and then figure out an information chain to really make sure that people are alerted to when there's issues that they need to be alerted to. So I would
Yeah,
put that on
that's
the
a good
agenda.
future agenda. item.
Yeah.
It's been a discussion forever.
Forever.
Dr. Brand.
We'll also add one. This is not really something that's pressing at this moment. So I don't expect this to happen even in Q3 unless there's time. But it has always struck me as really odd that most other unincorporated communities in Santa Barbara County have a permanent station commander or lieutenant. And in Isla Vista, we are subject to rotation. And I think that really limits our capacity to build collaborative relationships and effective working relationships, because the wheel is always getting reinvented down the street at the station. And, I think that this is an equity issue. If Montecito gets to have their specific deputy who's been working the same beat for 30 years, and we just get whoever is rotating through. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had about why and how are these operational decisions being made? What can we do to help support maybe a shift in policy? This is specific to the sheriff's department because we're lucky that we've had the same UC police chief now for going on, I think, almost 4 or 5 years. So so I don't know if there's a way to make it feel less targeted, even though by bringing it up, it is my intention for it to be targeted because that's where the problem exists. But maybe it's just about leadership capacity. I don't know. I'm sure you'll think on it and figure it out.
Well, we'll let them know at next week's meeting that these are future agenda items. So the conversations will get started.
I'll also just add, I'm really excited about the conversation that you're going to have about the peer-to-peer program to address noise concerns. When the public process happened and we had 30 long-term residents in our room, what we heard from them was a lot of frustration. And we know that the community demands that we think outside of the box when it comes to this. We are not just going to fund more law enforcement deputies to try to solve these quality of life problems. So I think that there's great potential in this, and I will look really forward to hearing the report back on what our partners are thinking about this, and if there's interest, because I think it could work to meet a number of our goals.
And what's attached here is the board presentation that the board got in 2021, springtime 2021. So,
I want to add a little bit of a layer to what Director Deschler had suggested as a future item. So about the way the information is shared out with the community. But one thing that I noticed from my neighborhood and friends in my neighborhood during Deltopia was the kind of communication breakdown just due to cell infrastructure and telecommunication infrastructure in Isla Vista. And that's not necessarily, I believe, one agency's duty, but it does become an individual safety topic for individuals who could just be trying to find their friends on a big, large day like Deltopia, and because of telecommunication challenges, they can't make that call, or they can't make a call out to emergency services possibly. And so I don't have any theories or ideas on how that's a quick fix, but I think that is a layer of this information sharing idea that Director Deschler shared. Yeah.
and if there's anything you all want to have us who go to IVC discuss on any of these, this would be a time for you all to share your perspective on the agenda.
Director Brand.
I do have one thing on the Deltopia debrief, which is that I would appreciate some discussion about for the future having more standardized statistics. For years, we got kind of what felt to me like the same standardized report in the sheriff's office press release. In the last 3 years, we've gotten what feels like more bits and pieces. And so for me, as someone who's trying to evaluate how did things go this year from an actual data perspective, it can feel kind of difficult trying to piece it together. And I have been able to just reach out and ask the fire chief about things like medical calls, but it doesn't really hold a lot of value if the public safety partners don't agree on the data and agree on what it is, because then it'll just turn into finger pointing of, well, there's actually this many more medical calls or this many more citations if you use this time frame. So I think that it might be helpful to have that, because it will help us evaluate how we're doing a little bit better. Because even today, it's hard for me to really have a whole. I mean, I have some thoughts and ideas about how things went, but it's kind of hard when you don't have the data.
Yeah, inconsistent data. Yeah. So smart.
We'll bring all this up. And we'll have a Deltopia debrief at a board meeting agenda item next time, but that was part of the reason we didn't have it. It just happened on Saturday, but also.
And I thank you for putting it off until then.
All right, anyone else? Any other? No. Well, we can conclude our discussion and action items, and we can move on to our 5th section, our reports. Are there any reports from members of the board? Director Freeman.
I always have to prepare to say the name because it's so long. The California, no, I got it wrong. The Santa Barbara County local chapter of the California Special Districts Association will be having its quarterly chapter meeting on April 22nd. And notably, there was a nomination of Dixon Resources to the engineering / contractor of the year, and they won the
Nice.
award.
Oh,
And
cool.
so-
Did we nominate them?
Yeah, I did know.
We did?
Jay,
Oh.
Jay suggested I do.
That would be embarrassing if we did nominate.
The nomination was done by the San Maria Sanitary District.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
and so Jonathan will be there, actually, like, hopefully saying something about handing the word plaque. I went to the plaque people today in order to get constructed.
Is that in Buellton? Is that the
Actually,
Buellton?
no, it'll be in Goleta at the
Oh,
Frog Barn Grill.
At the what barn?
At the-
Oh, yeah,
At the
at the golf
Glen
course.
Annie Golf Course. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
If you do want to go, you should RSVP that you're going. And one way of doing that, like, are you taking to go? Would be to make sure that
I
can
was,
RSVP for you.
yes, I have to go.
Okay, I will make sure.
Wait, the 22nd? I'll call in from DC.
That's okay, then I will not
Gosh,
RSVP
dang.
for you.
Oh, gosh, Dilly dang.
But if anyone wants to go, you should tell either Jonathan and myself, so the people at the IVCSD know to make sure this food. So.
Yeah.
Thank you for that report. Director Brandt.
I wanted to commend our staff for working with the county on the Narcan distribution. Had a chance to go out there with Jonathan and knock on some doors and hand out this Narcan. I think I got through my bag of supplies in like 10 to 15 minutes.
Wow.
Everyone that I talked to wanted to take it. They understood the importance. They thanked me for what I was doing. And I had a number of requests for test strips as well. So I'm glad that that will be a part of the vending machine. I think we've heard a lot of feedback this past weekend about the need for those fentanyl test strips. So, but just wanted to thank our staff for helping support that effort. And I think it was like 800 or 900 doses of Narcan that got out there. I hesitate to spread rumors, but I was telling Carrie that I heard a rumor that Narcan was administered to someone during Deltopia, but I haven't been able to track down if that's true or not. But I think we all know that even if it was used or not, those doses are a good safety net to help save lives. So.
Thank you for that report. I'll share a report from the City of Goleta Library. There is a new city librarian for Goleta. Her name is Elizabeth Salcido. One of the new things coming to the city library, as well as all of its outlets, is a monthly programming theme. So, for example, April is Poetry Month. There will be some poetry readings at the end of the month at the building. And they've also just concluded their winter reading program for all ages. There were 1,500 books checked out over the 2 months of January and February. The interim library director, Ms. Satchwell, her time concluded very successfully. She spent a lot of time working on the Building Forward grant support. So I'll move into the grant updates. In the past, I've shared with you all about the City of Goleta's Zip Book program. If you don't remember, that's a program in which users, so ILO listens as well, can request a book that is not in the catalog, and it could even just be something on Amazon, but you use a portal from the city library website. This book, if it's not in the catalog, will get mailed to your house. Then when you return the book, it is reviewed for addition to the catalog and permanent in order to enrich the whole collection. They were awarded $17,000 over the year, like to use this year for that program alone. So incredible program, something that I think ILO Listens should be aware of and hopefully take advantage of. The second grant is the Building Forward grant. So that's going to help with their building improvements. The city is currently searching for a contractor to award this grant money to, and they're hoping to complete the entirety of the project sometime in mid-2027. Any pauses and changes in service will be updated as soon as possible. But this is all after last year being the 50-year anniversary of the City of Goleta Library building. So the building needs plenty of updates. And we learned about a new California State Library statistical workbook. So I don't have the whole ins and outs on that. I'll be trying to get a little bit more literate in how this statistical workbook goes, but I think it can provide some information for ILO listens as well. And I think there are other specific reports I have. Not at this time. Are there any other board members with reports?
I was just gonna say, fun fact, my dad was an architect in Santa Barbara for many years, and he was the architect of that library. So that's how old it is.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's very
It's still a beautiful space. Very topical.
Well, we're not going to talk about it today, but I just want to say, speaking for myself, that I was so impressed with this spring festival. I just thought it was fantastic and so engaging and very, very successful. And I just think we're getting better and better at it all the time. And I was so proud.
Yeah, we'll have my own. I'll
We'll
come
talk
present next
Ooh, we're
time,
gonna get a
but-
Maya report.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
All right. I'll move on to our reports from standing and ad hoc committees. None at this time. Okay. I'll move on to our third item, a report from district council.
Thank you. Nothing to report at this time.
All right, thank you. And I'll move on to our report from general manager and staff.
I don't have a huge report because last 2 weeks were all consumed by Deltopia. That's done. I sent you all the lighting priorities that Jenna put together based on the 5 phases that we worked through. So we'll have it at the next meeting if you guys want to discuss them, but you can review them now. It's in like PDF form. You saw in front of the community center, the new sign is up. There's like a landmark stone sign for the community center. The county just turned that around really fast. But it doesn't have the letters yet, so you'll wait to get those maybe next week, but it'll be like a landmark sign in the community center. For the STEP mobility plan, our committee, which is like our committee of a lot of our partners, met again for the first time since last year to review the Dixon work. Overall, they're very pleased with what's been produced, so that's a good step. And just a note, on the parking and mobility plan, we're merging the two projects now, just because we just keep referring to one or the other during each one, and we'll have, the recommendations will start to converge. The town hall will be about both. The focus groups that come up will be about both, but that's what we're doing. And yeah, they just synergize really well now. It's the same result. The library, where our committee's meeting this week with the county again on continuing to figure out what our next steps are. I won't give my take on what's going to happen, but it's probably a longer term project, pretty much is what I think. Retreat, we have 4 dates with 5 board members available. So it's April 26th, 27th, 28th, or May 10th. So if you haven't sent your availability, it would be good to know so we can lock down one of those 4 dates. Our budget committee is meeting next week to get started on that work for the year. And last 2 things is, sorry, it's a little out of order today, but our bluff safety, we did drop 1,000 brochures at Isla Vista households last week about bluff safety as part of the Narcan distribution. So if someone didn't answer, they got a bluff safety brochure in their door. Our ad hoc committee also I almost sent you an email today, but I figured I'd see you now, which is we do need to have our an update meeting. And I think that's Director Deschler, Director Craig, and Director Aguilar on our staff reorganization ad hoc committee. So we are ready to meet with you again with some additional thoughts. And our leadership meetings with IVRPD continue. We have another one next week. And we're also meeting with IVRPD together with the County Community Services Department to learn more about their workforce housing study and share our thoughts on that. So also same meeting next week. That's all for my report.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Going back to IV Safe, is the city of Goleta part of IV Safe? Can't
They are
remember.
invited. They've been
Yeah.
invited since the beginning, and they
Yeah.
were when the DA
Yeah.
was running it. I did run into Kelly Hoover
Yeah.
last week at a community event, and she asked me if they should be sending somebody. I said, yes, please send
Yeah.
somebody.
Especially
So-
for this next meeting, I imagine they might have something to say.
Yeah, so they always get all the emails, all the invites.
They
Like
do.
3 or 4 people from the city are on the invite list, like the
Okay.
city manager, neighborhood services, assistant city manager, and the public information officer are all on the list. So
Right. Thank you for those reports. This time we'll move into our closed session item, our general manager annual performance and salary review.
I'll head out first.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they want you to stay.
You said 26, 27, 28.
Oh, we,
26, 27, 28.
27, sorry?
26, 27, 28.
Okay, and the
May
for
10th
May,
May 10th is off now.
oh, May 10th done.
Jay just sent me his.
Oh gosh, that means I'm the last person. Oh, my Lord.
Okay, I'm gonna do it again.
27, 28, 29.
Yeah.
26, 27, 28.
26,
26,
27,
27,
are
28.
we
It's 26, 27.
muted on all that?
I was about to say, can you?
Yeah, I'm gonna do
Bye,
that.
everyone.
Hi, Jenna.
Thank you.
Hi,
Go
Jenna.
rest.
Have a good night.
Go rest after your
You
big
are
job.
next. Well, you can head out.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, so
You
Yeah,
left and I was
stretch good.
both, and I was like,
You're both
oh,
okay.
yeah.
I'm both
I did
okay.
it because my
Yeah,
back.
I said, I come back, and I just
That's
left right
great.
away.
I know. I am so sorry I didn't call you back.
Are we good?
Yeah, did it come in?
Okay. The board met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1 to discuss the general manager annual performance and salary review. Direction was provided to staff, no reportable action taken.
All right, thank you. And now move on to our future meeting dates and future agenda items. The next regular meeting of the Board of Directors take place on April 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. on Zoom and in the Community Room, 970 Embarcadero, Del Mar, Isla Vista, California. Are there any future agenda topics that directors would like to request? Seen none, so I'll move on from this item and I will